Hello, internets. Hello again.
Hello.
We're back. That is myself, the one and only Nick Izumi, and still over in the majestic state of Michigan, we've got Arcemise.
Hello.
So, welcome to the channel. This is my other huge, enormous project that I've been mentioning, and this one was really more Arcemise's idea than anything else, so why don't you take this one away, Arcemise?
Okay, so to start off, Haruhi Suzumiya was this huge phenomenon when it first came out back in 06, 07. And, it took the anime world by storm. And it definitely was one of the shows that got me into anime. I actually had not watched much other than really old shows and Toonami shows before this. This got me into that non-Cartoon Network anime. And it's a fascinating series. I loved season 1, and as we will be going over in the future, it definitely is a series that struggled in its later years. But we thought we'd start off with Haruhi season 1, kind of go over story arc by story arc of the events of the anime. Probably will touch on the light novels, which I have a good many of them now, and kind of how they compare and contrast and things like that. And hopefully not quite as dire as our Sea Destiny review, but we might have to do the Signs of the Apocalypse by the end of this one. So
I just hope no one wants us to do an age review after what I've been hearing there. Oh dear.
So, I guess let's kick it off with episode 0. We should disclaim at the beginning that we are going from the DVD order of episodes. There is several alternate versions of ways you could watch the show.
I think it's probably also worth noting that this is going to be a super spoiler-filled kind of retrospective on Haruhi. And just, I guess, to clarify our mission statement, we want to analyze its 3 portions, its first season, its second season, and its movie. And we're going to kind of try to figure out why it worked, in some cases why it didn't work, and figure out if all of the hullabaloo that came around it was warranted. I guess, would that be a fair way of describing it, or?
Definitely. Okay. So, episode 0 starts us off with this little homemade movie. And if you didn't realize that right away, which would be kind of surprising, the episode gives you little cues within it. It revolves around the character Mikuru Asahina going from one random job to another dressed as a bunny girl, and a really kind of convoluted, rushed plot within the context of the episode. But you could really tell that it was going for that low production value, cheap camera work, even such subtle things as boom mic, or I shouldn't say boom mics, but the microphone getting in the way, the camera going in and out of focus, the director actually getting into the scene and talking to one of the actors. It was just, for those that kind of started off with this episode, I know I did, I saw it at an anime convention, and I came in somewhere near the middle end, and I was just watching, I'm like, what is this show? There is something here.
There's 2 things about this episode that I really do like. One, I love its attempt, and its, in my opinion, very successful attempt at mimicking poorly done amateur filmmaking. I thought that was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing that I love is that the little movie that the characters make is making fun of all sorts of anime, and for that matter, tokusatsu TV show tropes. And it's almost a microcosm of everything that this show is going to be making fun of for the rest of its run. Like, that is the show's mission statement right there, in its own convoluted way. It's trying to tell you, we are going to be just delivering gut shots to this entire industry while pretending to be part of it.
Or wallowing in it, depending on your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really wonderful. The episode ends with us like having these credits go by, and then we kind of pull out of that low budget camera effect into a much more crisper, professional animation style, which we do have to commend. Kyoto Animation did a phenomenal job on the show.
It's a Wizard of Oz moment. You know,
yeah.
That first time you watch Wizard of Oz and those first few minutes in Kansas when everything's in black and white, that's precisely what it is. It's that Wizard of Oz moment where everything goes like lush color and really looking beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And the director herself, Haruhi Suzumiya, or super director, I should say, as she titles herself, stands up and claims that this movie was a success. And from there, we go on into the first episode 1, the first story arc, titled The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya.
And we meet our lead character, who's a bit of a, well, he's not the title character. He's a very grumpy guy by the name of Kyon. Or at least that's what they call him, because for the life of us, we don't know what his real name is. No one does. They never say it.
Even his little sister calls him Kyon. And so, Kyon is, he's a very pessimistic guy, a little bit bored with the world. He, would like something to happen, but he constantly tells us how he doesn't believe in the supernatural. He never believed in Santa Claus and everything like that. He's just kind of going through life wishing it was really, something interesting would happen. And then he meets Haruhi Suzumiya. The meeting actually takes place during their classroom introductions, where he just finished standing up talking about himself. The girl behind him stands up and she goes, "Hello, my name is Haruhi Suzumiya, and if you are a time traveler, esper, or alien, come hang out with me. And if you're not, then I want nothing to do with you." Something along those lines.
Little weird, just a little on the weird side.
Yep, even the look Kyon gives her as he turns around in his seat with what? And he sees her and she's got this glaring face of just kind of looking around the room, almost accusatorily. It's like, is anybody interested? No? Okay. And then sits back down. She always has this scowl on her face, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then throughout the episode, we have Kyon talks with some of his friends about her, because after an introduction like that, it's like, who is this person? And no one really knows. She's kind of a mystery girl, but everyone has a story about how, some crazy thing she did back in the day. In middle school, she outlined a field with chalk and drew these weird graffiti symbols on it. She's in the dating area. She accepts everyone's dating request and then dumps them Immediately. With the shortest being about 5 minutes.
I think it was 5 minutes.
But she's excellent at everything. She's great at sports. She's really smart in school. She's very talented, in the music realm. She can pretty much do anything she wants.
The only problem is that she's angry, antisocial, and strange.
Yep. She has very particular tastes and doesn't see the world as a very interesting place. And so, while Kyon's kind of been gathering up this data and just kind of trying to figure out who she is, he picked up on one routine that she had, which was like changing her hair based on the day of the week. And he just kind of randomly starts talking to her about that. And it's actually like the first sign she starts opening up. She starts responding to his questions. And not treating him like a complete idiot. But she just kind of, it's the first sign that she would like more. She starts saying how she's bored with the world as it is and wishes it was much more interesting, like if it had aliens and whatnot.
And so, Kyon kind of turns this talking to Haruhi thing into this weird little ritual that he does. But after he points out her hair thing, then she actually communicates with him. Doesn't talk at him, which is what she spends most of her early time doing.
Yeah.
And then she gets an idea. Or rather, Kyon gives her an idea.
And it was how, like, since she couldn't find anything, like, she tried looking at clubs that might deal with the paranormal and whatnot. He's like, they're all, like, stupid clubs. I just don't know what to do. And he's like, well, why don't you make a club? If it's not there, then you gotta make it, right? And he kind of goes off on his own little tangent about, like, people just taking what they're given, and how there's others that can rise above that. He doesn't appear to want to rise above it at all. He's pretty content with staying where he is. But that sparks Haruhi's idea, and in the middle of class, she grabs the back of his collar, whips him back, so that he cracks his head against her desk.
Ow.
And she's like, I got an idea! I'm gonna start a club! And that Kyon's gonna help. And so she literally drags him out of there to go start up this club.
Makes him fill out the paperwork for it, do all the hard work, but clubs, because that's just how they do things in clubs, you need at least 5 members. And then the weirdness continues.
So Haruhi goes on the mission of rounding up members for the group. And in the process, she actually steals a room from the literary club, who apparently aren't using it. And the last member of the literary club comes along for the ride is Yuki Nagato. So she is kind of absorbed into Haruhi's new club.
If you want to know what she's like, she's basically at the Rei Ayanami archetype and the Glasses Girl archetype rolled into one.
Haruhi also thinks like that her new club needs a moe character. As she explicitly states, we need a moe character. And so she grabs a rather large-chested upperclassman named Mikuru Asahina, and who then becomes a member of the club. And just a little bit longer down the road, she finds a mysterious transfer student named Itsuki
Koizumi. Who also happens to be a Bishonen.
Yep. And so that makes up Haruhi's club, which she then dubs the SOS Brigade.
Why? Who knows? She doesn't.
Exactly. So the SOS Brigade, spreading happiness throughout the world with Haruhi Suzumiya. And so, now that she's got this club of people that she put together, she decides to, start doing things with the club. She has them hand out flyers at the front of the school dressed as bunny girls. She takes them on a little, kind of ghost hunting adventures on their weekends to, just go into town and go off in 4 different directions, see if we can find anything. And they just kind of have these random adventures, so to speak, little mini sequences that they go on, and it really puts them on the map. Everyone starts knowing them at the school, starts hearing about this SOS Brigade.
Not in a good sort of way, but in a what exactly do you guys do sort of way.
Yeah. What is it you guys do in that club? We keep hearing about it, and it sounds crazy. And everyone starts recognizing it's like, you're one of Haruhi's lackeys, aren't you, Kyon? And he's like, I have no idea what we're doing. So, as this kind of progresses, we actually start finding out more about these characters that have joined the club. And it turns out, remember how Haruhi wished for certain types of people to kind of show up and be her friends? Like aliens, time travelers, and espers? That's what she gets. Our little Rei clone is, Yuki is our alien, Mikuru represents our time traveler, and Koizumi is our esper.
And none of them want her to know that they have these powers.
Or that she has a power of her own. In their own fashion, they all kind of see Haruhi as a god, essentially. A being with the ability to kind of destroy or create reality around her as she sees it. Kind of hence how all these characters showed up in her club. She just randomly went out and found them. Turns out they're exactly who she was looking for. She just kind of has this power that she doesn't know about. And all these characters were kind of sent by their respective organizations, being, entity things, to kind of watch and keep an eye on her.
Now, at this point in the series, for me anyway, I was working under the assumption that all of these characters were delusional. Either that, or they were all playing a trick on this poor Kyon kid. One way or the other.
And as we've said before, he's very pessimistic and doesn't believe, like, anything supernatural. But then he gets some evidence of the reality of the situation. One of these other alien characters who had been disguised as the class representative actually, like, tries to kill Kyon to see how Haruhi would react.
Super Yandere style.
He's saved by Yuki at the time, but it's this fantastic battle where, like, things are, like, flying off the ground. The reality is being warped and adjusted, kind of like the Matrix. It's like a Matrix fight.
Have you heard about the Matrix?
Between two people that, kind of like witches, I guess. They've been, Yuki's been described as a witch several times. But,
ridiculous superpowers ensue.
Yes. He also bumps into an older, Mikuru, who is several years older, and, drops some hints on him about, kind of just validating that she is in fact a time traveler. And then Koizumi, the fun thing about that is after everyone's kind of had their little experience with Kyon, where he finds out the truth of the matter, he actually approaches Koizumi. He's like, you got something to tell me too, don't you? He catches on really quick.
Yeah, it's like, alright. So, no more. I'm out.
What can you do? And so it turns out Koizumi is the Esper. He has these superpowers that activate in what's called a closed space. It's like an empty, alternate reality where there's like no people, but these giant glowing giants show up to wreck the place. And so he and his Esper...
It's totally the God Warriors from Nausicaa.
Yeah, so Koizumi and his Esper buddies have to go and defeat these giants with the hope, like, to keep it from spreading and that these closed spaces kind of are eliminated. And so Kyon, through all this, he has this everyman attitude about him. Like, all this stuff is happening around him. He's constantly going like, why me? What did I do to deserve this? You know, if someone's out there, he constantly talks to the audience, which is fun. Because he's narrating this whole thing. He's like, if someone's out there, please call me.
Yeah, the like, fourth wall is constantly broken.
But, you know, he just kind of keeps with it. And he finds out, like, these closed spaces, they're really created when Haruhi kind of just gets depressed or angry or upset or bored, as they find out later. It's just like whenever she's in really tumultuous, you know, moods. And Kyon, more often than not, can be the cause of most of these mood swings that she has. But in one moment when we kind of get a nice moment where Kyon and Haruhi were walking back from one of their little excursions in town, and Haruhi tells him about this one time when she went to a baseball game with her family, and she like saw all these people, and at how insignificant it made her feel. And it got her really down. And, but like, it was at that moment she's like, there's gotta be somebody out there, and all those people, there's gotta be somebody that's interesting. And I just want to find them. And it's like, it's a really touching moment, because Haruhi, for the most part, is a very flamboyant, in your face, do what I say kind of person. And it's these little moments where she kind of lets that down and just kind of talks to you. Normally, she kind of just thinks about her life and what she really wants out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're the moments that you really, I think, look forward to in the show. They're really touching. I don't know if that's true for you then too, Nick.
No, I definitely agree that I think Haruhi's best scenes are her not being Haruhi scenes, if that makes sense, because she's an incredibly flamboyant character and a very boisterous character. But it's very clear that there are some underlying issues that lead her to be out there and boisterous, and she doesn't really like showing that side. She just is always in your face about these things and how she wants to not be bored until the boredom breaks and then something weird happens and then she gets freaked out, which I guess takes us to the next part of this.
That night, when Kyon goes to sleep, he wakes up and finds himself in a closed space alone with Haruhi. And so, in the school. And so she's, like, really freaked out by what's going on. Of course, this is, like, the second time he's seen it, so he's keeping his cool and just, like, asking if the others are around. He's asking if Koizumi has shown up yet and stuff like that. And as it kind of goes on, Haruhi is actually kind of upset with how cool he's taking it all. It's like, isn't this, this is, like, a really crazy place. We need to go check it out, and why are you so calm? And so she kind of goes off to explore, and Kyon kind of gets some messages from his friends that, well, this is like game over. It's like,
on a scale of 1 to really bad, this is really bad.
That Haruhi was fed up with the world she was living in and is going to create a whole new one. And Koizumi even kind of jokingly pokes fun at Kyon, is like, you're the new Adam and Eve. Yeah, Koizumi, you jerk. Anyway, the giants show up and start wrecking the place, and Kyon, pulls Haruhi out of there, who's kind of like, really, is like, oh my gosh, look at these things, let's go talk to them. I just know things will turn out alright. And Kyon, it's like these great moments when he's just trying to come up with excuses to get her, it's like, to reject this new world and go back to the old one. He's got to convince her that the old one was more fun than this new place.
The whole idea here is that Haruhi thinks that she's finally found something interesting in the form of world destruction. That she doesn't realize is world destruction.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's almost hilarious how disturbing it is that she's welcoming this because she doesn't know what it is. And Kyon, knowing that it's her who can choose what the future will be, this is like his only chance to actually, well, or rather not his only chance, but this is one of the only times he actually stands up and does something.
Yeah. He's been a bystander for so much of what's been happening, because he has no powers or anything. He's the every guy.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of sits there and things happen around him. But like we find that, a big part of this is like the fact that he was there. He's in this close space with Haruhi. She wanted him there, with her.
Then furthermore, he's finally taken the nerve, I guess, to stand up to her and question her choice. Because at this point it would be like, okay, well, things are looking bad, but I guess this is what Haruhi wants, so let's just let it happen. And Kyon's like, no!
I like the old place. I want to see all these people again. Like Haruhi, they're running away, and Haruhi breaks his hold that he was hanging onto her hand while they were running. She breaks out and she's like, "Didn't you hate the old world too? Like, wasn't it boring to you?" And he gets into this like loop in his head. We get this kind of montage of like, what does he think of Haruhi? How does he see her? And he actually like is discussing this and narrating, and how he narrates how he gets into this loop. He's like, "I know I'm talking in circles, but what would you do?" But then he figures it out. He's Haruhi, it might seem like the world is a boring place to you, but it's just that you don't see, it's become so much more interesting and so many fantastical things have happened that like you just don't know about. We should go back there. And it's like, it gets across to her, and then like one of the giants gets closer, and so she's like all in awe of that. And so the hints that his teammates have dropped on Kyon was to think of fairy tales with like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, and how all those end. And so what he does, he grabs her by the shoulder and he's like, "Haruhi, you know what? A couple weeks ago, you wore this ponytail, and it was so hot it was criminal." She's like, "What are you talking about?" And then he goes and kisses her, and like the world kind of spins and lights are flying, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and falls out of bed. And there's like a few moments pass. There's just seconds, and then we see his face like go from tired to like, "What just happened? Oh my god!" And then he's just like kicking and screaming. It's one of those great, hilarious moments. I think he says in the English dub, "Satan Roy must be laughing at me." But it turns out they were able to. He convinced Haruhi to bring them back to the world as they knew it, and he goes to class the next day, and she's got her hair up in a ponytail.
Aww.
Aww. And he's like, "How'd you sleep?" She's like, "It was horrible. I had this horrible nightmare." And he's like, "You know what? Ponytail looks good on you." And we just kind of end from there. The rest of the team kind of all give their, "Oh, thank God." Thank Haruhi.
Everybody gets a sign off, yeah.
Yeah, everyone gets a little sign off.
And it feels like it should be a last episode, and go figure, in the broadcast order, that was the last episode.
There's a little bit of an epilogue to it where they were gonna go on another one of their little excursions around town, and it turns out everyone except Kyon and Haruhi called in sick, and so basically it's like a little date for them, and Kyon kind of goes on how he's gonna tell her about how amazing the world is, about time travelers and espers and everything, and that's kind of where we cut. And that's the end of the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And this arc is the main plot of the first book, the light novel that came out, was this story arc, and it won quite a few awards when it first came out, and it is the story that put Haruhi on the map. Because of that little story, the phenomena that is Haruhi just kind of took off. And it's got a great uplifting kind of mood to it. You end on a very, very happy note. And very optimistic for the future.
But, when you got a light novel that sells well, why not put out a sequel? And, so most of the next couple episodes are based on some of the other books. If I'm not mistaken, they're not all from the second book, or am I?
You are correct. The second book is mostly in the second season of the anime series, is them making the film that we mentioned in episode 0. So the next couple storylines are actually quite a few books down the road. Well, I guess we can go right into some of them. We have an episode where the group gets together to play baseball. Like, Haruhi's like, "Oh, let's go play baseball." And they're like, "Why?" Or Kyon's like, "Why?" Koizumi's like, "Yes, ma'am." And everyone else is just kind of, But, they're a horrible team. And a lot of these episodes just kind of break down into little vignettes, little adventures that they have as a group. And it's really fun. In this episode in particular, they're really bad at baseball. And
because animes have baseball episodes nowadays.
yes. And it just turns out that the people they were playing against are like a full-on college team that were like champs. They were like picked to win the whole tournament kind of thing. And they are just decimating Haruhi's team, the SOS Brigade. And unfortunately, that really sours Haruhi's mood. And so Koizumi starts getting calls like how there's closed space opening up elsewhere, and that they're really going to have to make her not angry or bored. And so what they do is they have Yuki put a spell on the baseball bat, and which she aptly describes as homing mode. So now every time they swing, it connects, and it's like a home run. And so they kept all the way back up. They actually managed to win. The tournament itself was like, double elimination kind of thing, so they were supposed to play again. But people on the SOS Brigade had to leave, and Kyon didn't really want to push their luck, and felt kind of, he felt bad. So he's saying how bad he feels for the other team who, really had to earn the right to be there, and Haruhi's team, which is like, we're going to cheat.
The other team who essentially were actual baseball players, whereas not just a team that Haruhi put together on a whim, basically, and who had something riding on whether or not they won the game.
Yeah. And so Kyon convinces Haruhi, it's like, you know what, we can forfeit, we'll just kind of step away, things are out of our hands.
We'll show mercy on them today.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they kind of agree and head out. They actually Kyon winds up selling the baseball bat to the team, the opposing baseball team, so that he can pay for lunch. Because Haruhi makes him pay for everything. But it's just kind of one of those fun episodes where the club gets together. Next up is an even more random one. It's called The Mysterious Sign, where Haruhi draws the logo for the SOS Brigade in MS Paint. And
MS Paint is where all of my good ideas begin. I don't know what's weird about that.
But do any of your paintings open up a hole to like another dimension?
No, they just go up on DeviantArt where no one gives a crap about them.
Aww.
It's true.
Well, Haruhi's painting opened up another dimension where this giant cricket resided, and the team kind of gets together outside of Haruhi to like go and fix it. And so Yuki like opens up this dimension for them, and Koizumi's got like a little volleyball of power that he's like smashing against the cricket. And Mikuru is actually just kind of there wailing, hanging onto Kyon's legs. It's kind of a random episode.
It's good old random funsies with a cricket fight, and anything with a giant cricket fight is good times for me.
Moving on from there, we have The Mysterious Island, which is a 2-part episode.
Ooh, a 2-parter. This is the only, other than the Melancholy story arc, this is the only 2-parter in the series that actually has like a recurring story rather than just being a 1-episode short vignette. The
episodes chronologically don't, I think they all kind of happen in correct chronological order, but the time between each episode is kind of variable. Like some are way in the future. You can kind of base it on what you can see in the club room to really determine where in the timeline you are, like based on how many costumes Asahina has. I know one is the Tanabata tree shows up in, I think, the baseball episode. It's sitting there. And that heralds events that are coming up in future episodes. So it's not quite Pulp Fiction, but the chronology can get a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, The Mysterious Island, like Haruhi wants to be like a famous detective and to solve a murder mystery. And so Koizumi and some of his organization buddies kind of get together and organizes this trip to an island, a remote island, to create a closed circle, as it's called. And so a closed circle, if you don't know, is basically the story mechanic where it's a bunch of people that are kind of trapped in this small space, and something bad happens. You know, there's a lot of great examples.
It's an Agatha Christie and then there were none situation. We're on an island, someone's the killer.
Yeah.
Wonder who.
And so the host of their of the place that they're staying at winds up with a knife through his heart. They ultimately it's got to be there was a brother there too. And so they start kind of thinking about who it could be and go around trying to gather up clues and whatnot. The interesting thing about this moment is it's another one where Haruhi kind of asks for something supernatural to happen, or something just unexpected and that wouldn't normally happen, and then she gets it, and she's actually when it happens, she's really shocked, and as anyone would be, but just terrified that could happen. And she, again, it's kind of like she acts like a normal person for a little bit. And so her and Kyon are kind of running around trying to figure out who the killer is. And at one moment, they kind of get lost out in this storm, and so they're hiding in a cave, and they're trying to come up with a solution. And Haruhi kind of comes to one. It's X, Y, and Z happened, and then the guy tripped, and the knife went all the way through his heart. And that's what happened. And Kyon's yeah, but wouldn't he have been lying face down then? And so he kind of points out the plot hole. And there's this moment where the screen kind of warps, and we're looking at Haruhi's eye. And I'm pretty sure, it's my own opinion, it's never really explicit with things like this, but I'm pretty sure that's when the world kind of changed in order to get the outcome that we do get, as opposed to, there was an actual murder. It turns out they figure out that the guy, they were all just kind of playing a giant ruse, and that it was all set up
an elaborate ruse.
An elaborate ruse. And Nick, if you want to talk about how they explain the evidence.
I adore this scene. Is it mostly because I'm a big player of the Ace Attorney series? It's entirely because I'm a big player of the Ace Attorney series. Dinner scene, Haruhi puts everything on the line and announces her theory as to how the murders actually went down, slamming the table and dramatically pointing exactly like Phoenix Wright as she goes about it. Koizumi offering counterpoints to her, doing the Edgeworth poses the whole time. It was a really nice nod to my favorite video game.
And there's a lot of those kind of cameo / references throughout the series, which really make it really enjoyable. And it really appeals to that kind of nerd demographic that's familiar with a lot of anime and whatnot.
Just cute little homages to, to those more famous shows, I guess.
Yeah. And so they leave the island, no one actually died. But they do, Kyon and Koizumi are speculating afterwards, Haruhi said she saw something out in the rain. He's what could it have been? That was you guys, right? And he's no, it wasn't me. He's is there some kind of killer still loose on the island? And then Kyon's nah, that would be stupid. The series throughout, every time there's a mystery, which is kind of at the heart of this series, it's a lot of good fun, but at the heart it's a lot of mystery solving, just kind of going in and figuring out what's going on. There's a good sense of noir, the music really sells those moments. And so it's playing some kind of dread song when it's is there something loose on that island? But anyway. The next up is actually my favorite episode, is called Live Alive. And basically what's going on is at the school it's festival time, and so we follow Kyon as he kind of explores the different events that are going on at the school. This is where their movie that's shown at episode 0, they actually show the movie at the festival. It's the entire reason they made it.
And the entire festival bit is really well handled. There's this kind of lackadaisical feel to the directing, but you get dazed like when you watch it, just because it seems a little overwhelming. It does feel like someone who had been to a school festival thinger before put it together. Mm-hmm. And it definitely has that realistic feel to it. There's something going on. The energy is very high, but at the same time, it's overwhelmingly high.
Mm-hmm. And it actually has some of my favorite moments are when there's stuff going on in the background. Like we're always following Kyon. He's kind of in the forefront, but then there's always something happening in the back. And more often than not, some of it's tied to other stories from the novels. Some of it's tied to the event that takes place a little bit later when Kyon makes his way over to the gymnasium to check out kind of the music events. And he's a little shocked and alarmed when Haruhi shows up on stage in her Black Bunny Girl outfit with Yuki Nagato and 2 other band members and puts on this concert. And it's a blast. Like, the animation is so much fun to watch. The music itself is also great, both in English and in Japanese. I will admit I'm kind of partial to the Japanese version, but Wendy Lee does a great job matching.
There was a lot of love that Kyoto Animation put into the concert sequence. Like, it's not lazy anime concert sequence. I mean, I hate to bring it up in a negative regard, because I actually really love this series, but like, as much as I love the series Beck, most of the time when the characters are actually playing instruments, the animation got really lazy. And that is not what you get here. It's very lovingly done. The guitar playing, the drums, Haruhi's actual singing.
Mm-hmm. Like, her face is constantly moving and shaping with the words. It's really great. Like, there isn't one of those scenes where it's just like her mouth opening and closing, that her face is static. It's like always moving, and it's just a blast to watch. But it even gets better. This is kind of why I really love this episode, is that after the concert's over, like, she was stepping in for other band members who couldn't play because of, sprained wrist, or I think one of them had tonsillitis or something like that. And so, like, she and Yuki had to step in and play the songs, and the band comes up to her afterwards and is like, thanks for your help so much. You're really helpful. And it's worth noting when the band actually comes to thank her, her friends tell her that someone's at the door for her, and she's like really shy at first, and then she's like grabs Kyon and like pulls him over to go see them with her. And she's really, you don't really have to thank me or anything. It's like, no, we really do, because our record is doing great, and it's amazing that we could play then, because they weren't going to be able to. We actually saw these characters again throughout the festival before, in that background sequence, and we could actually see Haruhi and Yuki running around in the background a couple times. But it is just a really nice moment where Kyon's just kind of sitting there watching them talk, and then later Haruhi like leaves during lunch break, and he wanders out himself. Of course, in his own words, he's I just went wandering, no other reason. Kyon's such a reliable narrator. And he goes out and he finds Haruhi kind of under a tree, kind of looking up at the sky. And it's again one of those moments where she's just kind of musing. He's like, I really wanted it to be better. I could have done this and that. And Kyon's kind of explaining it to us a little bit. He's like, I know why you feel this way. He's not saying this out loud to her. It's because it's the first time you've ever been thanked for something, isn't it? And just that Haruhi did this out of the kindness of her heart.
The fact that Haruhi even has a sense of kindness is kind of...
yeah.
It's something that we haven't seen much of up to this point, and yeah.
Yeah, it was no ulterior motive. She just wanted to do it, and people, really appreciated that she did. And not many people in school probably appreciate her for things. She's probably still mostly that crazy girl that has a club with a bunch of cronies now. It's another one of those just really touching moments where the two kind of interact, and the best part is one of the fewer moments when they both smile at each other.
Once again, it's one of the few scenes where Kyon and Haruhi actually communicate. Mm-hmm. As in, Haruhi's not going off on a rant, using words that she doesn't know, which we forgot to mention. She often just uses words that she doesn't know what they mean, just because she likes the sound of them. And then Kyon trying to get a word in edgewise and being immediately dismissed. This is one of those times when they actually are communicating with each other to some degree, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Again, moments like this are why I really love this series. It kind of comes to an end, though, when Haruhi kind of sits up and accidentally throws some grass. She throws it at Kyon, but the wind comes back and blows it back into her face. It's kind of a funny little moment. But she's like, oh man, we gotta start a band. And Kyon immediately falls back into his kind of annoyed look. He's like, really? And she kind of starts going off on who would be doing what. And I actually have a wall scroll of the characters in the outfits that she was describing. Of Mikuru being on the tambourine and Yuki being on guitar. So like she grabs Kyon and they start going away. And I wanted to point out, I picked it up this time, that when she grabs him this time, instead of grabbing like his collar, his tie, or like his arm, she actually grabs his hand. And they just kind of go off together.
See, I did not notice that. I don't know, maybe I've admittedly been kind of multitasking a lot recently.
It's one of those small things, but I think it does show how far their relationship has come. Though it's still probably not romantic in Kyon's mind, I think Haruhi is becoming much more open to him and whatnot. Anywho, we got 2 episodes left. So, Day of Sagittarius is another random episode where the computer club challenges them to a duel of computer games. This one's actually pretty fun too, if only because it's like a space battle video game that they're doing, like an RTS, and for all the sequences where they're actually fighting on the computer, they actually have like full-on spaceship sequences where they're shooting at each other in space.
A nice kind of spoofing those Legends of the Galactic Heroes or Banner of the Stars sort of series of the giant space battles, and you see the characters wearing their your typical anime space outfits.
Mm-hmm. It's just a blast to watch. Some more in-jokes like, launch the Gundam!
And you get a pixeled out
a mosaic Gundam launching.
From the original series, yeah.
They actually bleep out the word Gundam, too. But it's Haruhi being Haruhi, yelling at them, commanding the group, and the team has to kind of band together to beat the computer club. Another thing of note with this episode is Kyon kind of lays down the law and is like, hey, guys, we're not cheating this time. If we lose, we lose. And
which is a big step for him, considering that he's starting to get into a habit, and it's a habit that continues into the second season, of expecting Yuki to fix crap for him.
And she actually turns out like the computer club was cheating, and Yuki actually rewrites the program while it's playing, which is a fun little sequence. But Kyon's like, I told you no cheating. He's like, I'm not cheating. It's weird having Yuki, like, talk through my voice. I'm totally not cheating, man. Get with it.
No, but it's also an interesting episode for just giving Yuki some character, because she is so robotic, and at the end of the episode you find out that she actually kind of enjoys doing this kind of computer work. So that was kind of a fun change of character, I guess.
Yeah, she gets invited to kind of hang out with the computer club if she wants to, and she agrees to it, which is in a little moment after that where she's got her book open, but she's like typing as if it was on a keyboard. Just another little cute moment for Yuki, and as Koizumi pointed out with towards Kyon and not wanting to cheat is like he's kind of envious of how much trust is between Haruhi and Kyon. Like, he trusts her to take losing without creating a closed space, and she trusts Kyon to win, essentially. But again, their relationship has come a really long way, and it's really awesome to see. The last episode, I forget what its official title is called, but we just call it The Day Without Kyon. Basically, at the beginning of the episode, Haruhi sends Kyon on a mission to go collect a space heater for the club room because it's almost winter time and it's getting cold. And so This is also the episode that I find that people don't like. Yeah, people don't like this episode, and the reason why is, while Kyon's away, they decide the animators decided to kind of show the club room for the most part, with the only member being in it, Yuki. And if you know anything about what Yuki does when she's anywhere, she's just sitting there reading a book. And so there's these long stretches of time where we're just kind of watching Yuki turn a page from a really far away angle, too. Like, it's way up in the corner of the room, looking down at it. And it's just Yuki turning the page. There's a radio channel on.
Looks like they're trying to be artsy with it.
Yeah. And Haruhi's actually off with Mikuru and Koizumi taking pictures for their DVD cover and whatnot. Eventually, the sequence goes on the full, half-hour episode. By the end, Kyon gets back with the heater and then, slowly falls asleep in the room. When he wakes up, Haruhi's actually the only one that's still there. Mm-hmm. And there's a great moment, right when he wakes up, he doesn't really notice what's going on, but we get to see Haruhi was, right over the top of him, just kind of, watching him sleep, and is, really, jumps up and backs away real quick when he wakes up. It's like, I wasn't doing anything. It's
a really slow-moving episode.
Mm-hmm.
People...
It's so much different than the rest of the series.
And while I understand why people don't like it, because it is such a slow episode, I think it's a very poignant episode, because it's got this whole thing of, alright, why is it that when Kyon's not around, things just don't get interesting? It's just life kind of goes on, and people don't really do much. And even, I guess, it's not even so much, even the Day Without Kyon thing, even, just when Haruhi's not around. There's a line I really like, in a scene where Kyon and Koizumi are playing, Othello, was it? Yeah.
I think in this episode they were playing some kind of card game.
Okay. There's still this really quiet scene of just them, playing, and Kyon talking about how, with nothing going on, he feels like it's, I love his phrasing of it, it's like a moratorium on life, is how he puts it. This kinda hanging over him.
And so, the episode ends, it got really late when Kyon fell asleep. And so, it started raining out too, and so he and Haruhi have to share an umbrella to walk back down the hill to town. And so they do that for a little bit before Haruhi just kind of grabs the umbrella and runs off up ahead of him, and he's got to run to catch up. And she, turns back, and I forget what the actual action is. She pulls down her eyelid at him, kind of thing.
Yeah, the stick your tongue out, pull down your eyelid, that Japanese the face thing.
Right. Yeah. It would fade to black from that.
No, not so much Japanese, little kid thing, really, is what
Yeah.
it is.
And it's another. This is where the DVD set decides to end on. And again, it's a nice, optimistic, kind of happy moment where we see some, especially Haruhi and Kyon, kind of interacting when they're alone, but getting along.